If you're someone who feels a lot of stress, anxiety, or overthinking around work, your goals, and success, this is going to be an episode for you. Today, we're going to dive into understanding how overworking, hustling, and just being that hyper overachiever is affecting your body, specifically your nervous system, and how regulating your nervous system is actually the key to your success. The way that we've been taught to do success is really based around the stress survival mode, and we cannot thrive when we're trying to survive. So in this episode, I'm going to be breaking down what it means to have a deregulated nervous system, how to start regulating it, and in turn, how to create long-lasting and sustainable sacred success. Welcome back to the Essence Shown podcast. I am so happy that you pressed play today and are choosing to join me and give yourself the gift of expanding your awareness and really getting some infused magic into how you're showing up to work and creating success. I am your host, Olivia Heine. I am an NLP and sacred success coach, and I'm here to help you revolutionize the way that you do success by making it holistic, based on your own inner cyclical nature, so that you can actually create sustainable, sacred success. And when I say sacred success, I mean success that feels mother effing good. You actually are here to experience pleasure, to enjoy your life. And so when we are stuck or caught up in the loops of hustling, needing to strive, needing to achieve, needing to please, it really prevents us from having the experience that we're actually here on this earth to experience. But of course, it's easier said than done to just say, get over it, release it, change the way you work. So what we're going to be diving into today is really understanding the role that the nervous system plays, because this is really the foundation to understanding the difference between being in sacred success and then being in stressful survival mode success, as I call it. So before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new, or if you're a returning listener and you have yet to hit that subscribe button, let's go do that now so that you can be notified every single week when a new episode comes out. Plus, if you love this episode, if something really resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment in the comment section below or a rating and review. It helps the podcast so much to reach more people and to really get that engagement going. And I love reading whatever your thoughts are, whatever's on your mind, whatever shifted for you, and cultivating that community space here with you. In the description and show notes below, you can also find tons of links. There's some flow freebies there for you to get started, specifically around healing your hustle. That's going to be really great if this episode resonates with you today, as well as ways to work with me one-on-one to actually dive into clearing and healing this so that you can start creating that sacred success, and also tools and courses for working like a woman and setting up that flow foundation so that you can really be in that state of easeful productivity and reaching the goals that you are committed to creating in your life. So let's dive into today's episode on the nervous system regulation. So I think it's really important to get all of us on the same page and get into the nitty gritty of what the nervous system actually is. So I'm going to keep this on a need to know basis, but the nervous system is essentially the part of your body that lets you know if there's danger. It really regulates your response to the external world based on the triggers around you. So based on your five senses, you're going to get a response internally in your body that says, ooh, we need to respond to this, or we need to run from this, or we need to do something. And that external message that you get is then going to create an internal response, which means, okay, if I feel like there's a bear coming at me, my internal response is then going to get all of my muscles running in my body so that I can run away. Or if I put my hand on a hot stove, that's that touch feeling. It shows me, ooh, there's danger here. That is painful. We're going to have that reaction response then internally that moves our hand off of that stove. However, in our world that we live in today, these primal instincts and these primal ways that we respond to danger start to layer on top of how we respond to everyday stressors. So we can be in the car on the way to work, someone cuts us off in traffic, our boss calls us in for a conversation, we're not sure what's going to happen, we feel like maybe something's wrong, we're doing a big presentation, we're feeling anxious about it, our job is relying on it, or our bonus is relying on it, or we're trying to make a sale with a new client. There's all of these moments that we go through throughout our workday that create these stress responses that feel as though that bear or lion is running after us, that we're actually in some sort of danger. And then our body, that internal response then starts to give us a similar reaction to as if we needed to run away from a bear or a lion, when that's not even the situation that's in front of us. And this response is not inherently bad. Let's just be really clear. This is a really important body function because it keeps you safe, right? We need this for our survival. The problem starts to arise when we spend so much time in this state of being on guard, feeling anxious, feeling stressed, that our nervous system predominantly spends its time in this state, which is the sympathetic nervous system. This is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. So whenever we're feeling that, ooh, there's danger, I need to respond here, that's the nervous system state that we're in. So what this ends up coming down to is the normalized, heightened levels of stress that we experience in our society today. Like I said, we no longer feel these bigger spurts of danger in our Western culture today. We feel the stresses from traffic. We feel the stressors from our boss. We don't go through big seasons of famine and not knowing where our food's going to come from. We don't necessarily have wars immediately next door to us, depending, of course, where you are in the world. But these are just the bigger things where that's where we want our nervous system responding like that. That's where this response is really helpful to our survival. But just going to work every single day, or the stressors that even come from like paying the next bill, those are things that actually aren't helpful because they prevent us from then getting to the solution. So I'm going to explain that a little bit more. But with this heightened level of stress, what ends up happening is in the body, we have a hormone called cortisol, and cortisol is our stress hormone. And when we feel a heightened sense of stress, that is one of the hormones that starts to increase. And this is really great when we're getting up in the morning, when we're going through our normal rhythms that our body goes through. But if we're feeling these prolonged states of stress, the body starts to excrete more of this cortisol. And so again, if we're looking at bigger, more intense needs for survival, like famine, like war, those are times where the cortisol level is heightened. And basically what it does is it kind of starts to numb the body a little bit. It starts to put us in a state of reaction, responding, keeping ourselves safe, which again is really important in those kinds of situations. But if you're just going through your everyday life and you're experiencing these stressors with that heightened level of cortisol, which happens from this heightened normalized level of prolonged stress, what it starts to do is it covers up the symptoms that your body's going through. So an example of this is burnout. Another example would be fatigue. Another example would be digestive issues. And cortisol is really good at covering things up for us so that we can survive during those times. And if we have that in our everyday normal life, what ends up happening is cortisol, this heightened level, is going to cover up the actual problems that are coming from the fact that we're feeling so much stress. So for example, when we're feeling stressed, one of the triggers that we have is we start to overwork. And this is a really important symptom to identify because some of the deeper symptoms might actually be covered up because of the heightened cortisol level. And a great example of this is when you end up taking vacation after a stressful period, a lot of us tend to get sick. That's because the immune system has been working in overdrive. The cortisol level has been working in overdrive to try and compensate, cover it up. And now all of a sudden, when it feels like it's in a safe place where we can pause for a minute, where we can actually rest, then everything crashes. And so instead of having this like very even ebb and flow between a little bit of stress and then coming back into a state of rest and safety, because that is normal, that's also how we move things forward, that's how we energize the body. But instead of having that even flow, we end up having these really, really, really high highs and then really low lows. So again, I see this a lot with clients who are like, okay, I need to take a break, but I feel like I need 3 days to recover from the work that I just did. And it's like, that's not the point. We don't want you to have to recover for 3 days after hustling and pushing yourself so hard, because likely chances are that you don't have 3 days, right? You don't have 3 days to just be. There's going to be something that comes up, or you need to catch up on laundry, or you need to clean the house, or your kids need something from you, or you want to spend time with friends, or whatever it is. And this like deep needed rest that comes after pushing, hustling, and forcing it doesn't get the space. And so instead of having these high highs of like intense stress, which again, just to note for yourself, we normalize these levels of intense stress. So you might not even realize that you are at that level anymore. That's a really great reflection question to start noticing for yourself. But then we also have the low lows. So instead of being in a state of ease and peace when we're resting, of really like regenerating ourselves, we crash and burn at the bottom. And that's again like that scale between burnout of like going way too high on this side and then pendulum swinging back to the other side. So what's happening when we live with these heightened levels of stress and why it's affecting your success is because the body, when the sympathetic nervous system is turned on, which means that fight, flight, freeze, and fawn mode, which is on when we're feeling heightened levels of stress and anxiety as we move through our day, your body is telling you that you're in a dangerous situation where you have to focus on survival. And the really important key here, and if you only take away one thing from this episode, this is what I want it to be. You cannot thrive if you are trying to survive. So if you're working really hard towards your goal, if you're building out your business, if you're wanting to reach a goal of clients, of income, of a new job, of a promotion, whatever it is in your work life, but you're feeling this heightened level of stress and pressure, what ends up happening is you're showing up in what I call survival success. You're taking action from a place of stress, fear, anxiety, and potentially lack because you're like, I need to do this thing in order to survive because this stress trigger that's going off in the body is telling you that you're in this survival situation. And when we're in a survival situation, think about what it is like running away from a bear. Like go back in time, hunter-gatherer era. And when we run away from a bear, like all of the blood is rushing to the places in our body that need it, right? Like it's rushing to our legs. Like it's not going to our brain. It's not saying like, okay, how can we innovate in this moment? It's like run, 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 right? Or fight, 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 fight. So we're not able to access parts of our mind, parts of our subconscious that can actually give us a solution or even multiple solutions because all we can focus on is the problem. And one of the energetic laws lays this out really beautifully, stating that what we focus on expands. And so if we're focused on survival, really what we're focusing on is the problem. And so if we're focusing on the problem, what are we going to get? More problem. What we want to do is shift into focusing on the solution, even if we don't have that solution yet. And a great comparison here is like, are we focusing on the confusion of, oh my God, I can't figure this out. This is so hard. How am I ever going to get past this? Or are we focusing on the clarity? What state are you in? And that again comes back deeper than just a mindset thing, but it comes back to your nervous system. And so if we're not regulating the nervous system, we are in that survival state of success. We're trying to do things from this place of needing to survive, and we cannot expand what we're actually wanting to expand on. So the goals that you have, the projects that you want to bring into fruition, because we're surviving. Okay. So what we want to do here is move you into thrival. We want to move you into the place where very naturally and by default, we want to put you into the solution focused state, not keep you in the problem focused state. Right? So again, problem focused state comes back to being in survival mode. We cannot use the full function of our body and of our brain to find the solution, to receive the solution. And so therefore we want to move the body into regulating the nervous system, which what we're doing here in order to regulate the nervous system is bringing it into the second type of the nervous system, which is the parasympathetic nervous system state. And this is all about rest and digest. So the idea, again, when we're looking at kind of this graph that I was mentioning before of like having really high highs and really low lows, that would essentially be a deregulated nervous system. Regulating the nervous system then means having these very consistent ebbs and flows of, okay, a little bit of stress and we regulate again. So it's not about just being calm and chill all the time in this rest and digest state, but regulating the nervous system does mean in our society today coming back to the rest and digest state or the parasympathetic nervous system because we don't spend enough time here. So how do we regulate the nervous system so that you can start thriving? The number one thing to do is really making being in this state of rest and digest, so the parasympathetic nervous system, feel safe. This means actually making slowing down and resting feel safe. Because if we constantly feel like slowing down is going to jeopardize our success or that it makes us weak or that we feel guilty for it, of course it doesn't feel safe. right? We don't feel safe to slow down. Then we feel like we need to be doing, we feel like we need to be busy all the time. And if you're someone who can't sit still, or if you're someone who has a overflowing calendar, or if you're someone who constantly just says yes to everything, this is a really good thing to start looking at. This is where we want to start asking the question, and where you can ask the question to yourself, do I feel safe slowing down? If I spent 30 minutes doing nothing, could I do it? And if we're spending most of our time in the stress mode, then we need to spend more time in the rest mode. Are you following me? So regulating your nervous system comes down to changing your narratives around work. So like I said before, if you're feeling like these are things that you do, you're overpacking your schedule, it doesn't feel safe to rest, you're always busy, always doing something, there's actually a process that we want to go through to bring yourself back to feeling safe in this state. Otherwise, the process is quite simple and straightforward, which is incorporating something that I call a rhythm of rest. And this means consistently bringing yourself back to the parasympathetic state. Because again, this whole podcast episode is essentially explaining to you why rest, why tending to your body, why incorporating the body into your success is key to thriving, right? This is the background science of it all. This is what's happening behind the scenes. Because again, if you're trying to survive, you are not going to be thriving. So let me summarize again. What you want to do is bring your nervous system back into a rest and digest state so that you can regulate between the two states of stress and rest, and make a rhythm for yourself where you're consistently coming back to rest and digest again and again and again. And that might require you to spend some time looking at the beliefs and narratives that you have around work, around success, around why you feel like you need to push yourself so hard, around why you feel like the stress is somehow tied together with the amount of success that you're able to create. Really starting to ask yourself those questions, because that goes hand in hand with being able to regulate the nervous system and come back to this regulated, balanced state where you can thrive and actually create long-lasting and sustainable success. So let's just talk about some of the outcomes of a regulated nervous system. Number one, no more anxiety in the body, lower stress levels. You can literally wake up and have this sense of ease and peace in your body. Like this anxiety that you wake up with, I know what that is like. I have woken up for years of my life with that anxiety. You do not need to have that. I do not experience that anxiety anymore, at least not in a default mode on a consistent basis. Again, there's going to be times in life where things are new. You're putting yourself out there. You're in the uncomfort zone, trying something new. And that is normal. Those are normal things. So we don't want to shun this stress either, but we want to make sure that it's the right kind at the right time and that you know how to regulate it. You're going to have more ease in your life, the ability to let go of situations and also solve situations, right? The solutions come through to you when you're not creating so much stress and pressure around them. We're going to be ditching the overworking. We're going to be able to leave work at work, really create separation, not be taking so much on, not taking on so much of this responsibility of like, oh my God, everything comes down to me. Again, heightening that stress level. You are creating advanced cognitive function here. So again, that clarity comes through, creativity, innovation, all of these things are available to flow to you now because you have a regulated nervous system. And again, this is what fosters an optimal state for peak performance, peak productivity. You're able to focus better. You're able to flow more. You're not being pulled in directions that are creating, again, this fear because you're showing up in this survival state. Does that difference make sense? So what all of this truly comes down to is the way that you're taught to work, and how the narratives around work and the ways that you're taught to show up tend to teach us to disregard the body, tend to teach us to disregard our own needs in pursuit of success. And that is what creates a deregulated nervous system. And in turn, this is really harming your success because you can't thrive when you're trying to survive, and it really just makes it harder for you to achieve what you want to achieve. This is a really big topic, so I tried to keep it short and sweet today and just give you the need to know basis. But like I said, this is really like the behind the scenes look at what is happening in the body, in the mind, when you are in a state of stress, when you're showing up in a hustle mentality or feeling like I need to be an overachiever, or if you're a high achiever even, this is where these things start to show up. And it's really so important to your success to have that regulated nervous system. And not only will that monumentally change the way that you show up in your work or in your business and the success and the results that you create, but it is 1000% going to ripple out and affect you in every other area of your life as well. So if you want to dive deeper into this, I have an amazing flow freebie guide that you can download. It's in the link in the description below. It's called Heal Your Hustle, and I walk you through a 5-minute exercise to overcome your success saboteurs. It is super powerful and potent. However, of course, it's free, so there's not a whole lot of skin in the game there. And if you do want to take that next step, skin in the game means putting your investments of resources, time, energy, money behind what you're saying you want to do and create and change in your life, which creates equal and opposite effect of the results coming back to you, right? What you put in is what you get out. So if you want to take that next step, I have 2 ways to work with me one-on-one. This is really, really powerful work to do in a one-on-one setting because your experiences are unique to you. The way that you regulate your nervous system can also be unique to you. And so there is an option to even book a flow consultation call with me where we can chat and just find out more and see what the right fit for you would be. Outside of that, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, like this episode, share it with someone that you know would appreciate it or would be interested in this. And I can't wait to see you back here next time. Thank you for joining me. Till then.